This is Cydni.
And I'm Sher. And each week we get together to share with you a message of hope.
It is through our own study and our personal experiences that we offer the reminder to not only seek the light,
but be the light. You can find peace, and there is hope.
And as long as one of us is slightly caffeinated, there will be laughter.
Today's episode is character.
And we're so glad you're here.
I'm forging my way through the tip top. I'm living my life through the drip drop.
Hello, Cydni.
Hi.
Are you ready to talk about character?
Yes, I'm so ready.
Do you have any advice on how to build character?
Well, I want to know, how do you define character?
You are a character.
That's funny you say that because that's what I thought of.
Oh.
Not about myself, but just that person's a character because it doesn't sound as nice. So thanks for saying that to me.
You're welcome.
But Ben said the same thing. He's like,
Oh,
well,
see?
you could be a character. And then he listed several people, including myself, of characters. And he's like, it's not necessarily bad, but there's some mischievousness about it too. And then when I was searching up what a character is, it was so often how to write a character for your novel, how to prepare a character, not what is good old-fashioned character. And I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Because it seems like a topic people would talk about all the time with self-help, but I had to put in some effort to find what people thought about character. But I found some really beautiful things.
Oh, good. You did find something. It wasn't just a bust.
No, I'm just going to write a novel now about characters.
You should. Now you know where the need is.
The troll was good and bad and mischievous. Am I good? Are you going to read that?
I'm definitely.
Why? The troll is my top character, apparently. What does that say about me?
I don't know.
It's because I've been trolling my brother all weekend.
Your brother or my brother?
Mine.
Oh.
But I could troll your brother for you if you want.
He wouldn't care.
Okay.
He wouldn't notice, probably. Let's be honest. Why were you trolling your brother?
Okay, I will tell you. He's like, do not tell anybody.
Oh my goodness. This is not a good way to start. So you're going to say it on the podcast.
No. And he's like, promise me you won't tell anybody. Da 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 da. And I won't even say which brother it is. But I promised. It wasn't even a big deal. I was like, no offense, but that's boring. I'm not going to tell anybody, whatever. Then later that night, Ben and I were actually reading a very religious book when an inspiration came to me. And I made him pause because I was like, I'm going to troll my brother right now. And he's like, why are you stopping? I'm like, this is true inspiration. And I text him and I was like, hey, don't tell anybody, but Grady told me da 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 da. And I sent it to Grady.
Oh, gosh.
And then I said immediately, I was like, oh, sorry about that. It wasn't for you. Don't worry.
That's good.
Thank you. I laughed so hard. Immediately, there was some explicit language that came through. And I was like, it worked. And it was amazing. And then he called me and it was wonderful.
And you told him the truth, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't let him
knew.
suffer? Oh, he did know.
No, he said he knew, but it was like an equal, I hate you, but I know what you're doing at the same time.
Good.
I just loved it so much. I felt really proud of myself.
That's a good one.
It's a good one, right?
It
I love
always
doing
feels
that.
good when you can get your brothers.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good about
I've
yourself.
done it to Ben a few times where I'm like, he just left. I'm like, sorry, Ben, that text wasn't for you. And then he's like, quit that. What if I did that to you? I was like, I would cry. Don't ever do that to me. But I'm going to do it to you. That's my character.
Right. That is your character.
I'm so messed up. I have issues.
This character episode is going to be a disaster.
Sid's character is a disaster. I'd like to blame my therapist for that.
You know, I also find it interesting that for your novel character, you chose a troll because my friend since childhood, she always calls me a nasty little troll. So I don't know what that says. We're both trolls. I don't know.
Troll is our spirit animal.
I guess.
That says a lot about us. Let's go into something a little bit more beautiful, though.
Okay.
An idea that I loved the most that showed up over and over in different speeches or lectures that I listened to was people would say, character is not just doing the right thing, but it's doing the beautiful thing.
Oh, I like that.
I loved that so much. Also, just that it would be a window to your soul. I liked that a lot of who you really are. Also, another one was the state of the soul from decisions we've already made. Who we
I
are.
like that.
It's who we truly are in the dark when nobody is around. Decisions we make when no one knows. Deciding to do the right thing, but not just doing the right thing, but doing the right thing even when it goes wrong. I thought was an interesting idea because sometimes we do the right thing and it goes so poorly, or you offend somebody or you hurt someone's feelings, but you're trying to do the right thing. And so those are some thoughts of what character is. It's who you are, a window to your soul, and it's doing not just the right thing, but the beautiful thing.
I really like that a lot. It just reminds me of C.S. Lewis when he said integrity, but I'm going to add character to that. Can I do that?
You can. C.S. Lewis can't fight you on that.
Okay.
Where is
so C.S. Lewis said integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. That really is what your character is, what you're building, what you're creating. Like you said, you're going to do the right thing when no one's watching, even when it's hard, even when things are going down. You know that you're going to step up and do the right thing because that's your character. That's who you are as a person.
Exactly. I really like the idea that character is something you build. It's not just you're born and that's who you are. You are a child of God, and that gives you divinity immediately, but your character is something that builds over time. And so when we talk about building character, I think it's okay to think about who you want to be. And going back to everything I saw at first was writing a character. I thought, why not write your own character of who you want to be like, and the qualities that you would want to have? Because I think that life's journey is taking on those qualities and becoming better at them so that when an opportunity or circumstance arises, you handle it the way you want to handle it. Recently, this happened that I went to my favorite secondhand store for my kids' clothes. My daughter, I buy her a lot of dresses there. And I had a coupon, so I bought more than normal because I wanted to get the most out of the coupon. That makes financial sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We all do it though. I know what you're saying.
Like I could save
$4
$4 if I spend $750.
Exactly.
Better take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So I bought a bunch of boots for the upcoming winter, and I bought sandals for summer, and I just loaded up my cart, a bunch of dresses. And when she gave me the total, it was so low and it was very busy. And I knew immediately there was a piercing in my heart that she had done something wrong. I was in a hurry. I wanted to go. I just thought, okay, if I don't look at the receipt, I will never know.
Hurry and throw it in the trash.
Ignorance. And so I was like holding it. I'm like, don't look at the receipt. I know there's a problem. I can feel it. And I looked down and she only charged me for shoes. Not one item of clothing.
Oh, goodness.
I know. And I just thought, what if nobody would know? And Ben would be like, wow, look at how much you got for so little. And then I would face God one day, and then I'd have to explain why those dresses were more important than my character. So I did go back and I did fix it. And they were shocked.
They were shocked that you fixed it?
Yes.
That's sad.
But then I was like, my motivation was to make sure you knew that you made a mistake. Just kidding. I didn't say that. But I thought those moments, we have those throughout our days and our weeks and our months where we have an opportunity where it's you against you and you have to make a decision because truly nobody would have known. Plus it was secondhand. Those clothes were used. But I just thought it could be so easy. And I've had times where I've had something on the bottom of the cart where they didn't see or we forgot to scan. And we're walking out and I'm like, gosh, dang it.
Same.
Have you had that happen?
Yes.
What did you do?
Oh, I took off running, man. Threw it in my car and blazed off.
Sped, broke laws.
No, I went back because I don't want to live with that. I would know. No one else would know, but I would. That's terrible. I don't want to live with that.
Well, what I want to know is, why are you like that? Where did this come from? You think about that because I'll tell you, for me, something that happened. I listened to a speech once long ago as a child. There's a man who grew up at a time where the boys, the youth, would go and put a quarter in a machine for a newspaper, and they would grab like 7 newspapers and then they would sell them. So they would make money. It was an honor system, really. One quarter, one newspaper. But the boys would take several per 1 quarter, and then they'd go make $1.50. He said that one day he thought about doing the same thing, and he put his quarter in, opened up the glass, and he looked at the newspapers, and he thought to himself, is my character, my integrity, worth more than 25 cents? And he concluded that it was, and he took 1 newspaper. And he said that every moment in his life from there, he would ask, is my character worth more than this? And that has guided my life personally, because 25 cents is not that much. And dresses are not that important. And so every decision I make is based on, is my integrity worth more than this? So that's just helped every decision on what kind of person I want to be, and to put value on my character over value on other things, that the dresses are not as valuable as my character, even if nobody else knows what's going on.
I really like that example, but unfortunately, while you were saying that, I thought of a time where I guess I didn't have character. When my grandmother was in the hospital, I was 8 or 9 years old. It was at a time where kids weren't allowed to go into the actual room. So I would wait out in the lobby and people would go use the payphones. And there was like 3 or 4 phones lined up. And 2 of them, or 1 of them, I don't remember, but they would put the money in and they'd make the phone call. And when they'd hang up, the money would still come out.
Right.
And I made bank. If they didn't take their change after they left, I took it. And I sat in that lobby and I left with dollars.
You're just an entrepreneur.
So I'm an entrepreneur.
There's an
So as you were
opportunity.
saying that, I don't know how I built my character. I guess I don't have any because
Still working on it?
Yeah, I stole it all from the payphones for when I was 8 or 9.
Well, I only told you a positive story.
Yeah.
I stole it when I was 6, and it was a Reese's Pieces. Tasted so good. Someone said I couldn't have it. Mom. Yeah, I got in trouble for that one. I've never stolen anything again.
Well, see,
Except for Ben's heart.
oh gosh. But you got to what I was going to say. The people who helped me build my character was my parents, just having certain expectations and the way that I was expected to act and all of their kids were expected to act. That's what started it. And then from there, honestly, just trying to be a decent human being and follow the Savior, which I know I'm nowhere close to, but just trying my best. Because again, going back to what you said, I'm the one that stuck with me at the end of the day. And I don't want to be stuck with somebody that has horrible character, maybe slightly off, but not horrible.
A little questionable, but
Yeah, but
not going to rob from the poor.
But I think the number one thing is you're the one that has to want to have that good character. You are the one that needs to have that desire to build the character, or else it doesn't matter.
What you said immediately made me think of a Booker T. Washington quote. He does say character, not circumstance, makes the man.
And he was a slave.
Also, he does talk a lot about not knowing his father. Even if your parents were not someone who taught you character or instilled in you a desire to have good character or were really around to correct you, it's not a good enough excuse. It is not a good enough excuse because your circumstances don't matter. You don't get to use that as an excuse for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of people who've grown up in terrible circumstances. And along those lines, I also have heard before that whatever you're going through, the difficulties in our life can either destroy you or develop you. Meaning your character, who you actually are. And you get to decide that. And it's okay to pause for a minute and ask yourself, is this something that I would like to destroy me and crush me? Or am I going to allow this to develop me, make me stronger and make me who I want to be? But along with what you're saying, I think you have to have a desire. You have to know who you want to be and what you want people to say about you. Or when they say, when I think of Sher, I think of
a troll.
A nasty troll.
A nasty little
the
troll.
People that know you best. What do they say about you?
Apparently I have some work to do.
Maybe you should listen to our podcast when we're done.
I guess I should. Obviously, I cannot, since I'm going to be the troll in this episode, but there are really good examples that you can build and pattern your life after. So if you really want to improve or build on your character, one of the people that I thought of that was a good example of wanting to change his character and then learning how to change it and then practicing it is George Washington. So imagine this: at age 14, George Washington realized that he did not have enough self-control or discipline in his life. He thought he was too rebellious and unruly. At 14, are you kidding me? So what he decided to do is he got a book. The book is called Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior in Company and Conversations. It's kind of like a manners book. I think it was written in the 1740s. And in it, it has 110 rules of how you should behave and act in public. George Washington wrote every single one of those 110 rules down, and then he memorized them. So he wrote them down, kept them in his pocket, and memorized every single one of them. But he didn't stop. He didn't just memorize it. The next step was he practiced every single one of them. Is it okay if I give you a few of the rules?
Please.
All right. So here's some of the rules. Remember, he wrote down 110 of these.
That alone is impressive.
Right? And how did he memorize it? I wouldn't be able to memorize any of them. Here's just a few of them. And every action done in company ought to be with some sign of respect to those that are present. How about this one? Shift not yourself in the sight of others, nor gnaw your nails. How's that one?
good.
Yeah. I don't want to
needs
see
that.
you. I don't want to see you biting your nasty nails in front of me. Maybe you should have your kids memorize this one. Strive not with your superiors in argument, but always submit your judgment to others with modesty.
I'll tell my kids that. I'm sure they'll listen.
I'm sure. All right. I love this one. When a man does all he can, though it succeeds not well, blame not him that did it. So let's not make fun of people, when it doesn't work out the way the person intended. Or this one, because Cydni's doing this right now. Sleep not when others speak. Sit not when others stand. Speak not when you should hold your peace. Walk not when others stop. This is his last one. I love this one. Labor to keep alive in your breast that little spark of celestial fire called conscience. This was how he learned to control himself, to build his character. Now let's think about this. Why during the American Revolution did people trust George Washington as our general with an army with not a real government to keep him in check? He showed that he had built over time, starting at 14, his character. They knew who he was. Why did they trust him to lead the Constitutional Convention? Why did they vote for him as our first president? It's because they trusted him, because if he said something, he meant it. They knew that he had practiced and built his character over a lifetime, and he showed it every day in everything that he did. That's why they gave him a military. That's why they let him lead the Constitutional Convention. And that's why they voted for him, is because people trusted him and what he said.
I love that. And I think we have naturally used the word integrity when we're talking about character, because someone that is honest, someone that is trustworthy, someone with integrity is someone you want to be around. But if you did not want to go home today and tell your teen to sitteth down when I speaketh, if that's not going to vibe with them,
Probably not it.
There is a good book out there that we have used. My friend Brooke Romney wrote a book. It's a little flip chart type thing, and it's called 52 Manners for Today's Teens. And it is awesome. We have used it as a conversation starter with the kids and even their friends sometimes. It's actual relevant manners for today's world. Like if you're with your friends or you're with somebody, don't just scroll on your phone. And it's turned into, honestly, some of the coolest conversations. And I have not done it for the last few months. We got it for Christmas and we used it so much. It brought up such cool conversations, things I wouldn't have thought of to talk to my teens about. But we have talked about it. And it's awesome.
I think that's really great. That is a great idea.
Well, it's very relevant. We still want our youth to have manners, to develop character, but we have to make it relevant as well. And
Absolutely.
I thought that was a good way to do it. And also that makes me think of today. I went to Titus's soccer practice and I was truly inspired by the coach. He was training 12-year-olds right by me. And I was watching Titus across the field, but I could overhear what he was telling them. And he was making them work really hard. And he said to them, I will not adapt to a 12-year-old boy. You will adapt to me. And that stuck out. I thought, okay, I like that because one, he's worth adapting to. He's positive, he works hard, and he is truly inspiring. I listened to him start the morning off in a huddle, and he told them, you are a good soccer player, and I'm proud of you for that. But everyone here is going to be more proud of you for being a good person.
That's perfect.
And I thought,
we need more coaches that say that.
I think coaches have such an awesome opportunity because what better place to talk about becoming your best self and building your character than when you are working together as a team in those situations. It's amazing. But a lot of coaches don't take advantage of that. We've been on a lot of teams, but to watch him, I thought, this is a coach that's worth adapting to. This is a coach worth becoming like. He's successful, he's wise, he's motivating, but he doesn't mess around either. Anyway, that happened today and it just made me think, okay, that was good. Adapt to me, children. I'm going to use it today in my household.
Good.
But like, I will not adapt to you and your needs. Here's your chicken nuggets you asked for. When I was preparing for this, a story that I once shared on Facebook popped in my mind, and it took me so long to find this. I had to pray to find this, and I did. So there was an answer to my prayer. So listen, because it took a lot of effort to find this story. There is this story that it's a news article in 1982. It's in Time magazine, and it's called The Man in the Water. What happened was there was an aircraft that crashed into a bridge in Washington during the winter. And the author talks about this disaster was different for people for a reason, because crashes have happened before. Tragic accidents have happened. That's not unusual for our world. But there was something about the story that touched a lot of people that made it really popular. So he talks about the crash happened. There's people on an airplane that are now in the water or holding on to the airplane for dear life, and it was frozen. So it was truly a catastrophe. But he says, but the person most responsible for the emotional impact of this disaster is the one known at first simply as the man in the water. Balding, probably in his 50s, and an extravagant mustache, he was seen clinging with 5 other survivors to the tail section of the airplane. Every time they lowered a lifeline and a floating right to him, he passed it to another one of the passengers. He then talks about how this has been seen before in mass casualties, that people do this. But the difference is that he kept doing it. Often what they would see is maybe a man would pass it one time and then take it the next time. But this is where I kept thinking that you do the right thing, not just the right thing, but you do the beautiful thing, because he kept passing it. When the helicopter came back for him, the man had gone under. Makes me emotional. Sorry. Mm-hmm. His selflessness was one of the reasons the story held national attention. His anonymity, another. The fact that he went unidentified invested him with a universal character. For a while, he was every man, and thus proof, as if one was needed, that no man is ordinary. Still, he could never have imagined such a capacity of himself. Only minutes before his character was tested, he was sitting in an ordinary plane among ordinary passengers. Then suddenly he knew that the trip would not be ordinary. Like every other person on that flight, he was desperate to live, which makes his final act so stunning. For at some moment in the water, he must have realized that he would not live if he continued to hand over the rope and wring it to others. He had to know, no matter how gradual the effect of the cold, in his judgment, he had no choice. When the helicopter took off with what was the last survivor, he watched everything in the world move away from him, and he deliberately let it happen. Yet there was something else about the man that kept our thoughts on him still. He was there in the essential classic circumstance, man in nature, the man in the water. For its part, nature cared nothing about the 5 passenger. Our man, on the other hand, cared totally. If the man in the water gave a lifeline to the people gasping for survival, he has likewise giving a lifeline to those who absorbed him. The odd thing is that we do not even really believe that the man in the water lost his fight. Everything in nature contains all powers of nature, said Emerson. So the man in the water had his own natural powers. He could not make ice storms or freeze the water until it froze the blood, but he could hand his life over to a stranger. And that is a power of nature too. The man in the water pitted himself against an impersonal enemy. He fought it with charity, and he held to it a standoff. He was the best we can do. I know that was a really long read, but that story, I read it over 10 years ago, and I still think of it because he's an ordinary person, and the circumstance arose. And no matter what was going on in his life before that moment, he had at least built his character enough to make the decision that handing life to someone else was what he would do. That's the kind of person he was.
That is beautiful. That was so good.
The other important part of that, because a lot of people want to be a hero, but when you want to be a hero, you want people to know you're a hero. And I love so much that the author specifically points out that it's partly that he was anonymous, that nobody knew who he was, and he still did it. He didn't care who knew or if they saw or if the cameras were in his face. It was him against himself, and it was anonymous. And he did it lights, camera, action off. He still acted that way. And I thought that part was just beautiful too.
Yeah, I agree. I love that because really does character matter when nobody else seems to care or notice. So what does it matter? Well, there's an example. He was still willing to do the right thing, even though it literally took his life. And I feel that we live in a world that character doesn't get its due credit, that people are doing things to get attention and outrageous and haha, look what I did to this person or that person. And there's a lot of shows about punking people,
which I love.
but maybe character isn't as valued as much as it used to be. Or is it?
Maybe there's so much distraction now. I was having a conversation with my neighbor yesterday because we were talking about a trip to Paris. I don't want to say it.
Not again. I thought we were past this. We're going to be dealing with Cydni and her Paris trip for the next 4 years.
Say that clear because I was so uncomfortable.
Because she could see the eye roll coming already.
It was true. She asked first. Okay, we really were talking about our Paris trip. And she said, how did they have the patience to create some of those buildings that were built? And the thought came to me that they didn't have much else to do, right? Nowadays, we could easily get lost in scrolling through. Well, you don't do social media because you're wise. Or a boomer.
Not a boomer.
I am. You are helping me with the technology. But I did think that they didn't have a lot of distractions. And we have so many distractions.
May I add, they didn't have a lot of freedom. I was like, do this or I'll kill you.
That's a good motivation.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm ruining your
History,
point.
Knowledge ruins everything.
I'll keep going.
But really, I thought if we did take away some of the distractions that we have, then we also could create something else that is even greater value, which is our own character. If we spent the time and the detail that they spent on the sculptures on our own character, truly is the same process, is it not?
Yeah,
Just
it
chipping away the pieces of us that we don't want and shaping us into what we do want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really good. And then another thing is, as we're working and building and creating our character, sometimes it feels like it really doesn't matter, because no matter what you do, nothing in the world or around you changes. It just stays the same. The whole world still looks like a dumpster fire, but you're turning into something more beautiful on the inside. You're changing, but the world seems to be going the wrong direction. This leads me to, speaking of history nerds, this leads me to something that
Nerd.
you know,
Just one of us.
Whatever, you're the one who talked about Booker T. Washington today.
That's true. I'm amazing. I'm cultured.
Yes, you are. All right. So there's a journalist in the Civil War. His name is Charles Coffin, who actually wrote something that I find quite beautiful. He said, "Notice that while oppressors have carried out their plans in history, there were other forces silently at work. There is a divine hand directing the counterplan." So as we are building our character and working to become more beautiful, God is using that for his divine plan. He is using all of those little pieces and putting it together to make something beautiful. Maybe we can't see it, or maybe we won't even see it in this lifetime, but God knows what's up, and he's going to take us doing the right thing, the beautiful thing at the right time, and he's using it for the benefit of his children. Just as an example of God's divine hand working through us and our individual character, I want to tell you about a guy. He's a pastor. It's Pastor Elijah Lovejoy. And Pastor Elijah Lovejoy was
What a name.
right?
Good name.
He was an abolitionist, and he wanted more than anything to free the slaves. And so he moved to Missouri, and he started a newspaper in Missouri that was an abolitionist newspaper. Kind of a hot spot to move to Missouri to start an abolitionist paper, because there was a lot of very strong and passionate people on both sides there. And so he started publishing his newspaper, and the mobs came and burned down his newspaper. And so Elijah Lovejoy built it again, and the mobs came and burned it down again. And he built it again, and the mobs came and burned it down again. Only this time he decided, okay, maybe I should just move across the river. And so he moved to Illinois, where he built his paper up again, and he started his abolitionist paper and was very passionate about it. And while he was in Illinois, he had another idea that maybe to help with this abolitionist movement, he should start recruiting people that he thought would be potentially good politicians and get more abolitionists in Congress. And one of the people that he recruited was Abraham Lincoln. Just so you know, Abraham Lincoln was only in the House of Representatives for 2 years, from 1847 to 1849. And then he never won anything else. He ran for re-election. He never got anything again until he became president in 1860. So there was a lot of failure between 1849 and 1860. Remember that for just one hot minute. Then Elijah Lovejoy, going back to him and his paper, he is publishing his newspaper, but the mobs showed up again in Illinois. And this time, not only did they burn the newspaper down, but they also murdered him. Here's this guy that had this amazing character of wanting, no matter what the consequence, to free the slaves. And it ended with him dying. Now let's talk about another abolitionist, John Quincy Adams. He was our president for 4 years, and then he didn't get reelected. So he went back to Massachusetts, where he became a member of the House of Representatives. And his whole goal, his entire life, was to free the slaves. So as president, he was a failure at it. He was in our House of Representatives for years. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was probably close to 20 years, and never was able to free the slaves. So all of this work was for naught, so it would seem. But he had a phrase which Cydni and I love, which is, the duty is ours, results are God's. And so it didn't matter that maybe things weren't working out the way he thought they should. He was going to do the right thing, do the beautiful thing, no matter what, every single day of his life. And he died in the 1840s, and that was it. He didn't ever get to see the slaves freed. However, John Quincy Adams' last few months in office overlapped with Abraham Lincoln's only 2 years in the House of Representatives. And John Quincy Adams became a mentor to Abraham Lincoln. So Elijah Lovejoy, he did the beautiful thing his whole entire life, and he was murdered. John Quincy Adams stuck with it his entire life, and he died not seeing the slaves freed. But both of those men did the right thing their whole life. So going back to the quote I said earlier about Charles Coffin, that notice while oppressors have carried out their plans in history, there were other forces silently at work. Elijah Lovejoy, John Quincy Adams, silently doing what they knew was the right thing, silently sticking to what they had practiced and building on their character and their integrity their entire lives. There is a divine hand, going back to the quote, there is a divine hand directing the counterplan. God knew that those two men were going to have an enormous impact on Abraham Lincoln, so that Abraham Lincoln could do the right thing.
That caused so many thoughts to rush through my head. When building character, one of the suggestions is to be careful about who you are associating with, because we become like the people we're surrounded by. And that immediately proved to be true for those strong men all to be together. And the love for their country and for freedom was something that they all could associate with, and their love of God.
Yeah. And no matter what the consequence, burn down the printing press, fine, I'll build it again. Vote me out of office as president, I'll run for the House. Like, they just kept going and just doing the right thing.
And that made me think of something too, because like you said in the beginning of the podcast, that there has been times where you're like, well, there's a payphone situation. And we all have several moments in our life that we're probably not proud of. Mm-hmm. And some are probably more extreme than others. Like the time I blamed my brother for breaking a window, but it was 100% me. And that does get brought up. So I do have the consequences of that. I was a total liar, and I did get out of it, but now I live with it. But I thought that sometimes we have to rebuild our character. Just how he didn't give up on what he wanted to accomplish. It made me think of how sometimes we do make the wrong choice. And in those circumstances, I think it goes back to the destroy or develop. We're human.
Yeah.
People around you are going to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. They are human. Nobody is perfect. And we need to be around people who will allow us to change. And we need to allow other people to change. But then I thought of your mom's quote. What is it? To not be stupid?
She said, the Lord said to forgive everyone, but he never said you had to be stupid.
Right. So I think that's perfect to go along with this, because there are people who want to change, and we have to give them the grace to change. I always think of this when I'm driving down the road, and sometimes people just will not let other people in.
Why do you do that? Please.
I don't know. It drives me insane.
Let me in.
Let someone in.
Yeah.
It's karma, instant karma. You do something good, something good will happen for you. Or let them turn around and go the direction they need to go. I always think that if someone's trying to make a U-turn, let them go. Let them go where they need to go. But then I think, to add to our own life, if someone's trying to make a U-turn in their life, let them, support them. You don't have to pull them back down and remind them who they were.
Right.
Let them become who they want to be. Mm-hmm. But also, don't be stupid. Don't get burned over and over, which we talked about before. But still, I just think it's important to let people go the direction they're trying to go. So those were a few thoughts that came to my mind with those stories of how to build character, to surround yourself with people who have good character because you're going to become like them, which I see in Titus's soccer as well, that he is playing with very skilled players. And because of that, he's becoming better. And that will be the same with our desires and with our goals. They will change as you're surrounded yourself with people who also want to be great and do great things. And if you have absolutely nobody that inspires you and you're just in a total slump of a place in life, then I personally suggest turning to YouTube and search up really motivating people. I've always turned to biographies of inspiring people or speeches that touch my heart. That's okay. It's like one step above imaginary friends, but they're at least real people. So you could surround yourself
Whatever it takes
with knowledge and greatness, even if you're all alone in your van with cold fries. Not speaking from experience. So that's one, who you surround yourself with. The other is to know yourself. Know who you are, know your weaknesses and where you're really struggling, and know what really matters to you. That's going to come down to writing out what qualities you want, what really matters to you. Are you a family man? Are you a hard worker? Are you known for being honest and having integrity? Or do you not keep your promises, but you want to? That kind of thing. And a suggestion I saw that I really liked is if you're someone who wants to be a commitment keeper, but you have failed because you overpromise, which can be me, where you're feeling really good in a moment and you make all these commitments and then you're like, okay, how do I get out of this one, this one, this one, this one, this one? So an idea was, if you are not someone who has been great at setting goals and accomplishing them or keeping commitments, to slow it down and make small ones. Start super small and at least prove to yourself that you can do it. Whether it's, I'm going to make my bed every day this week. If that's too big, I'm going to make sure my kids don't eat frozen chicken nuggets every day this week. One week, we're going to do something else. But just starting small and being biased to yourself of knowing you can do something, and slowly start building trust with yourself that you can start to be a commitment keeper and you can start accomplishing goals. Another one I loved, because we just talked about, is becoming a lifelong student. Learn from others and just continuing to learn new ideas and thoughts and keep that open, because as long as you're willing to learn, you're going to grow. Those were just a few ideas that I just personally really loved and could apply to myself and my own character where it needs improvement.
As our final thoughts, we just want to remind you of the quote, "The duty is ours, results are God's." We're all working on building our character. And even if people don't see you do the right thing, God sees it. God knows what you're doing. He needs more people stepping up and doing the right thing. Because even though the world looks like a chaotic dumpster fire, as we said, I truly believe that He sees everyone trying to do the best that they can in their own little space. And that He's taking and He's weaving that together to make some wonderful, beautiful plan that we can't see yet. But it's up to us to build that character so that we can do the right thing when it's hard. And one more thing, don't forget, in order to change or build our character, you have to want it. And then you have to, just like Cydni said, take some of those suggestions and learn and practice it. It takes effort and it takes work. And none of us are perfect at it. We're all just working at it. So give yourself some grace if you mess up. That was for me.
Our challenge is for you to pull that greatness and that good character out of yourself. Maybe take a minute and come up with 3 qualities that you want other people to say about yourself, and that will develop your character and for you to become who you know you already are, that you just have to build up. And we challenge you to write those down and work on them, just like George Washington wrote it down and memorized 110.
110.
Memorize 3.
Yeah, just 3.
You could do it. Memorize 3 things, and then you can make decisions based on those 3 qualities.
And with that, have a good week, and let's work on our character.
And thank you, for listening. Was that good manners?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I'm forging my way through the tip top. I'm living my life through the drip drop. When eternity's plan, I just can't stop. I'm making my way through the drip drop.
It's blooper time.
I did love it. Hold on. I just forgot what I was going to say next. Cut. You fix that.
I will fix it.
the state from the state. We're doing good. It was a silent burp.
Oh my gosh, what did they call phones? Payphones. Okay. Gosh, what did they call? And we
Another
also,
age
I know. All right.
Are you good? You all right?
Yes, I just got a jazz alert. Sorry.
Oh.
Okay.
We're pausing this podcast for jazz.
Okay.
I don't even pause it when my kids are calling. Go away. Just kidding. I feel like you have a lot of editing to do.
I blow my nose. Hold on.
Control your nose. Discipline that runny nose, you nasty little troll. Hold on. I read this so many times. I know this, so I better figure it out. His selfishness, he died. Everyone else had to live. He was so selfish.
Thanks for joining us.